morning and welcome to Frank's School. I thought I'd film this for you. I'm going to shut that water off pretty soon, but yesterday my neighbor Andy with his backhoe finished widening and cleaning out this leat or sluice or headrace or Bisse. And a little wind, I maybe should speak a little closer. And I thought I'd just show it to you before I shut it off. This water, I'm going to use it to experiment with using that perforated pipe as a penstock. It'll be a fall of about maybe 20 feet. And ultimately, I think I'd like to pick that level up and take it past my son's garden toward that catalpa tree in an open sluice or headrace, and then drop it over the biggest wheel on the entire farm. I'll walk down there and show you where that fall is. This should work. That's where I was standing. And the big experiment is going to be to see if I can splice and patch this kind of very thin-walled pipe in order to hold pressure. And down there, well, look at that. The water's running over the falls now. I'm surprised it found its way there, because I didn't really do much about that after I opened it. But in any case, down there, pretty deep, I'll have some kind of a, more like a turbine than a water wheel now. And underneath the road, I already have a big culvert. So anyway, that's going to be the site of this play, really. It's going to be an experimental site about using a penstock. Here you might get a little bit better feel of how level this Bisse is. If I block the end up, the whole thing fills. It's really virtually, I don't want to say perfect, but you can see there looks like a little bit of a fall in those ripples. I think you can see them. But that's because the end's open. If I shut that off, the whole thing would fill. And I really think it's probably within an inch, because this one I did by hand. The cartway that I'm standing on was bulldozed. But after that was done, I worked on the lower side of it, and I dug that initial leat or ditch or whatever by hand, and so I had it really perfectly level. And it will spill over, and then you can't see them now, but there's probably 6 other terraces in the making down below there. There's the cat, wondering where I went. Now I'm all the way back very nearly at the edge of the woods, and you can see it's still level. I mean, and going back into the woods. Now here it got complicated because I began to hit archaeological features, things I don't yet understand. I think there might have been a clay works here, there mining, there was certainly here. That whole hillside below where that cow is, and out that whole hillside was mined for iron and then bulldozed smooth. Now this was hard digging. I wasn't here to watch him do it because my shoulders, I've injured it. But you can see, and here there is a fall of water. This was hard digging for me when I was doing it by hand too. Very hard because of the roots, and Japanese barberry like that indicates that there was there's some kind of a building or something was here at one point. That bank right there was mined. All kinds of archaeological features that eventually some of them will show up. Now here's that heroic little backhoe that's done this. And he got about as far as he could go, he said, without actually disrupting the turnout. That I can do by hand. But you see, really a majority of the water, or at least half the water, is not going down the lead, but it's going going by, which I'll always leave it like that. I'd never, this is not a dam, this is a weir. This is called Jeffrey Weir, actually. Alright, here's his little backhoe. It has done simply wonderful work. And it'll run for 6 hours on 1 gallon of gasoline. He said if the digging isn't too heavy. Okay, here we have Jeffrey Weir and Jeffrey Bisse leading to Barbie Falls. I was down in there. That's the field where the cows were. But there's one other thing I wanted to show you here. The developments at the newborn spring. This, I think I had shown you before that a spring was born, and that water is actually, if the pipe's clean, that water is potable. You could drink it. It's coming from a spring a good ways up the mountain. But in any case, I was going to have it over there amidst those trees, but this was a wet spot that developed that was low. And the German word I've been using for it is a Teich. I guess you might call it a puddle. But anyway, it's like an invitation to have the spring be here. I normally like to have wet areas potentially, but not that's going to be the goat fold. There's going to be 4 little buildings there fenced in to keep the goats. Oh, there goes a crow. So anyway, I started to rake the leaves away to see, well, where's this water want to go? And I think it's probably going to go out through that way, and that way I'll avoid, but I'll have to see. But I just thought here's the rake, you know, raking the leaves away to see what the water has to say. And I'll show you where I've decided I'm going to avoid. Well, for one thing, it's down here that there's a little bit of a slope right there. So I don't know, somewhere right in here I'm going to put that spring, and I think I'm going to pave it. That'll be fun, pave the area around it. Here's where I had it. I thought that would be fun to have it in among those trees. But the water was going out through, and that was fun too, to have the water go right out through the midst of the goat fold. But where the goats are, I need to have it dry. So that won't work. Alright, well, there's a growth of the spring. Oh, since I'm here anyway, by the way, here's the aqueduct. And you can see it's fairly well populated with tadpoles. The water in the middle of the aqueduct is, which is what, about 1.5 feet or so higher than the sides. This is where the water's being carried. It's fresher, cleaner, but the tadpoles, I think you can probably see them. They don't mind. That's browner because the ground was disturbed in the digging, and there's, you know, organic material that's rotting up. That's what's making that little bit of an oil slick. That's from the organic material rotting up. But anyway, there's more tadpoles there. Of course, the water gets warm. Warmer there. It gets warm up here too. And that carries water out around the hillside, leaking a little bit. That one is also full of tadpoles. That carries water around the hillside. This needs work. Anyway, here you can get a measure of how much water is coming from Grandpa Jim Bisse. This would be Minnie Falls, named after Grandpa Jim's wife, Minnie Martha Nancy Bottenhorn Camp. And it gives you a measure of how much water is being brought through the aqueduct. Minnie Falls, before the aqueduct, was back there. That's where the water fell. Now it's fallen here. And I can make it fall on either side, but this is mounted up too high. This is going to be a little bit harder digging, so I've been waiting on that. What I can do is I can use that sod to go back, and any spots that are a little bit low I can use to patch with. Alright, maybe this time that will be enough for now.